Welcome to the Outlaw Radio Show. My name is Zach Adams. This show is a group of really misfits. It's a conversation of a group of friends that are in love with Jesus, who have been gripped by God's amazing grace, and who stand in solidarity as a group of men who want to stand as outlaws, even if the world is growing more and more hostile to the truth of Jesus Christ. Again, my name is Zach Adams. I pastor a church located just outside of Athens, Georgia. The name of the church is Calvary 316. If you'd like to learn about our church, go to calvary316.com. If you're local, hang out with us. Come visit us one Sunday morning. Our service is at 10:30. If you're not local but looking for a good Bible teaching church to join on the interwebs, calvary316.com. That's our website. Calvary316.live is a quick link to our YouTube channel. I do, right here from the beginning, want to let everyone know that if you're trying to watch on X, for whatever reason, we're not able to go live. We have no idea why. We've been working through problem solving that. It's a thing. I have no explanation. I am joined, as always, by the normal cast of characters. We got Spice Daddy to my right. To his right, we've got Dear Daddy, who's back with us. You were not with us last week. We had the daddy of daddies, Aaron Mott, was with us. So how you doing?
Good.
You good?
Getting rested up, catching back up.
Yeah, I know you had work stuff. You were out and about and doing your thing, right?
Yeah, we did a big conference in Cumming, Georgia, so it was...
you were busy.
4 or 5 days of pandemonium and no sleep.
Yeah. And your wife also had a birthday this last week. And so we want to give a nice happy birthday to Miss Chelsea Himes, which is nice. And we're also joined by the maestro of this dysfunction, the man that needs no introduction.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, Pope Creighton Vaughn. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to get myself resituated because we're making it work.
Yeah, we kind of had a thing.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Outlaw Radio Show.
By the way, while you're doing that, I'm going to grab a drink.
Okay. Welcome to the Outlaw Radio Show. If this is your first time watching, basically the way the show works is Zach's going to bring a topic. He's going to talk about that topic. It's kind of like an informal Bible study. It's a lot of fun. It is always crazy. This has been one of our crazier starts so far. And
has it really?
Our show is brought to you by another podcast.
Has it really been more crazy?
Our show is brought to you by another podcast we do called Get Fed Today, which is a podcast that we put out. It goes live that was so loud. It goes live every Monday morning. We put out 5 Bible studies from 5 different pastors from all across the United States. A wide range of topics. We currently have 801, I think. I think we just crossed the 800 mark.
Wow.
Of
really?
Bible studies, yeah. Of
That's
Bible
crazy.
studies
That's awesome.
On Get Fed Today. If you are looking to either just increase the amount of time that you're in the Word, because if you only eat once a week on Sunday mornings, you are going to die quickly. Or if you are looking to just increase the amount of Bible that you get because you are trying to learn how to study the Word, but you're not really sure where to start, Get Fed Today is a great way to start. It is 800 wonderful Bible studies from Bible teachers that me and Zach personally recommend.
Let's not go crazy on that.
Well, 90% of them are people that either Zach or I have met personally.
Yes,
we have met
that's
most
true.
of them personally.
Not all of them, though. Let's not like misbrand this.
That's true. If you get a crazy one, we'll apologize.
Yeah,
but we do.
Which,
recommend,
by the way, like just for just like be real.
Yes.
Like when we started Get Fed Today, like the first batch that we launched.
I think it was the 3rd week.
It was the 3rd week.
Yeah.
I'm on the treadmill and I'm like, I'm going to check out Get Fed Today because, that's our thing. And I listened to one of the Bible studies and I got done with it. And I was like, I immediately got off the treadmill and called Creighton, was like, we've got to pull this immediately. Like it was very political, and it was like after the Trump lost the last election, and it was like this play on Adonijah, which comes from like
It was a whole deal.
Yes. So and it was like, oh my goodness, I love this guy, I love this pastor, but man, this Bible study was crazy. And we pulled him. So like when we do get a study, we had a pastor curse on a Bible study. We had to pull that one too. And, you know, we've had a lot of things. We do our best. So we vet as much as we can, but these are, generally speaking,
we go by a very strong code of trust but verify.
Yeah.
That being said,
when I say a pastor cursed on a Bible study, we had to pull it. It was mine.
it was
a thing. It was a pandemic Bible study. It was a
involved lawnmowers.
It'll involve if we will pull my Bible study, when we find it, we will pull others. So
the producer had a major oversight on that Bible study.
It was a thing.
I was the producer.
Yes.
But yes, we do our best. That being said,
we pulled a Bible study from me.
That being said, the people that we have on Get Fed Today, we trust.
Except for me, apparently.
Well, yeah.
You're right.
We trust the guys that we have on it. It's a great resource. Most of the guys are solid. If it's a Zach Adams Bible study, grain of salt.
So I just like if tonight's episode feels a little wily, we're gonna directly attribute that to a brother of ours. His name's Randy. Randy decided that it would be a good thing for half the crew to go play golf today, and that was a thing. And so here we are. I'm a little sunburned. Vinny is also a little sunburned. If you wanted to know half that went and played golf. So Randy, thank you for making this episode pretty wily.
I would like to just reference an
Craig's
earlier
upset
episode.
he didn't go also to play golf.
I would just like to reference an earlier episode where you said it's a red flag if a pastor golfs under 80.
Oh, there's no chance of that happening.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
As long as he's paired up with this guy, not happening.
Yeah, I made a comment that if your pastor shoots consistently below 85, you should find another pastor because he's spending too much time playing golf and not pastoring. And that just really gives me an out for my terrible golf game. So, which
Solid.
happened to work today. We are also not sponsored. There's no money that comes in, but we plug people that we like to plug. Destiny's Edge, a book series, absolutely. Waiting on the 7th book.
Right.
Needs to happen.
we are.
Should be getting close.
We got to get closer.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to read these days?
Right.
Terrible.
You know what? I haven't been reading anything because
I haven't. I even tried his other book, and
Yeah.
I'm still like, I need some Destiny's Edge. It's that compelling.
he left us with a cliffhanger.
Hangers.
Yeah, hangers.
I know, it was crazy.
Creighton, don't
Don't try to. Don't try
Close your whore mouth.
Your books are probably still in the cardboard box.
They sure are. I have not built my bookcase yet.
Honestly, we're not sure if they're on the way to Goodwill.
They're
Right.
not on the
one
way
of
to
your
Goodwill.
biggest
That's
fans.
crazy.
One of your biggest fans, and you treat him like that.
Hey,
Yeah.
I am going to read them.
He
I
happens to love
promise.
the ifs, but you don't love him back.
It's been a hectic year.
Okay, sure.
I just moved. I'm going to get them out of the boxes. I am going to read
Do
them.
you want to share about your recent move and what happened?
No, I do not.
I think you should. I think you should take a second.
I want
and
to be very
share-
clear. I do not because
This was
I don't want
related-
any
this was related-
governmental bodies
This
to have
was-
any conversations about this episode. So no, I do not want to have this conversation.
Do you think that the Walton County Board of Commissioners is going to be checking out
If I've learned anything from politics in the last 4 years, it's that nothing should be shared on the internet that you don't want the government
might
to
be
have.
true.
Long story short,
No.
Yes.
two of the people on the
Camera
Outlaw Radio Show may or may not have played a prank on Creighton that went over very well.
It was excellent.
It was a very good prank.
It was excellent.
I did not like it.
Yes, it was.
I loved it.
It had something to do with code enforcement saying that he was living in an illegal apartment and had to be out in the next 4 days, or there was going to be fines and evictions.
Yes.
It was signed by an honorable judge.
And at that point, the place that I would have to move back into had become no longer habitable. Like there was not a chance of me moving out at that point.
What's funny though is
A lot of fun.
What
a lot
was
of fun,
funny though
kids.
is I told him we should have put Lee's number as the
It
number
should have
on
been.
there,
That would have been really
and
funny.
then got him involved in it, and it would have been.
But ironically, Lee wanted nothing to do with the trader.
Yeah,
that
that's-
was selling his books to Goodwill.
Traitor.
Yeah, someone that didn't care. Let's
Wild.
not leave Vinny out because Vinny's also
Also has not read the books.
has not read the books, and
Nope.
true fans are on the left side of the stage. Yes.
Yes, we are family divided.
So
We're 12 minutes
by,
into this
By the
episode.
way, you have like a Teddy Roosevelt shirt with like an AR. Is that an actual photo?
That's not an
is.
actual. Yeah, let's just go ahead and say it's my favorite president, and he's holding a rifle of one of my favorite gun companies.
You know, the AR 1811.
It's not an AR. It's a bolt action rifle.
Okay.
The bolt action 1811.
But Teddy Roosevelt probably would have carried it if he had the chance.
So let's roll into an XY of Z, if we can.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I've had a few bangers recently, and most notably has been.
Weren't you making fun of me the last time I used the word bangers?
No, I thought it was great. That's why I adopted it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Side point. I'm wearing a T-shirt.
XXXY? Boys and Girls Athletics?
So I came across
Girls and Boys
No,
Athletics?
I came across an organization, a website, XXXY Athletics, and it's an apparel company, and they some really cool stuff on their website. It's expensive, but the reason it is that they're an advocacy group promoting female athletics. And the idea that boys' sports and women's sports should be separated.
See, I don't agree with that because I've thought about joining women's sports to become famous and join.
You want to get first place.
I do.
Ironically, you got rejected also by the female sports.
That's neither here nor there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Nice one, Spice Daddy.
I could.
You know, on
totally
the golf
make that
course
work.
today, we did decide that we should have. Vinny and I had some Outlaw Radio brain action apart from you.
Oh, did you come up with good ideas?
Yeah,
because unlike Creighton,
I know.
I don't get offended by good ideas.
Yeah. So one of the
I only get offended by the good ideas that make me look like a putz.
one of the great ideas was having your dad on.
Butch would be a great guest.
No, we call him Spice Daddy's daddy.
I thought we already gave him a name.
Spice Daddy's daddy.
Spice Papa.
Spice Papa is so
That's
good.
so much better. No, that is so much better. Okay, high five. Brainstorming. So yeah, Butch, we're gonna have to have you on. Tell your story. But the XXXY is an apparel organization. They do advocacy for female sports, keeping female sports legit. I went through their website, was very inspired by it, bought a T-shirt, wanted to promote them, give a plug for them. For Jessica and I, for athletic apparel, again, instead of spending money on Nike, which is a liberal brand, or any of the others, Adidas or Under Armour, it's like, man, to be able to buy good quality gear and to support an organization that believes in your causes and your morals, your ethics, I think it's a noble thing. So I just wanted to kind of give a plug for that. Very cool organization, rocking one of their T-shirts. Very cool branding. Neat organization. And so we just, again, they have no idea we're doing this. We get no money for this, but it's like things we find that we like. And we've done that with all kinds of things, from Blue Letter Bible, which is a great resource for studying the Bible, to Enduring Word, which is David Guzik's website, to a wonderful Christmas book. It's never too early to think Christmas.
It's March.
Never too early. Spice, it's all you.
Basically Christmas Eve.
It's
I was gonna wait till after, like when I got to my segment, but it
it's
seems
just
like
it's just never too early. Yeah.
Right, it's never too early. And Amazon Christmas, check it out, Amazon.com. Go ahead and start getting your good deals in now.
Never too early to
Great Christmas fiction book,
Yes.
or nonfiction, if you get what I mean.
It's definitely fiction. Santa isn't real.
That's also true. Yeah, that's true.
Shut your
I feel
mouth.
strongly
Yeah.
about it.
Shut your mouth.
We all
Have
do.
we had an episode about my strong feelings about Santa?
We've had episodes on. We mentioned almost every time about how much you hate Christmas and
But
baby Jesus.
specifically why I have.
Honestly,
such strong
if you don't like Jesus at Christmas, we reckon you don't like anything at Christmas.
So back to
Creighton,
the thing about
Creighton is
apparel.
part Italian who also murdered Jesus. So
Well, the Romans.
and let's be real with that Jerry
So-
curl going on over there.
This is not what a Jerry curl is.
Pope Al Sharpton over there is rocking it.
because we were talking about apparel. I think I might have mentioned this
He
on
just
the
rolled
show
through
before.
the Pope Al
did.
Sharpton. He just ignored it.
You're getting better at this.
I've been thinking recently
learning.
because I have a bunch of I was
Proud
looking
of you.
at old photos of me, and I
You have
realized that
photos of you?
I have lots of old photos of me because I'm 33, almost at 31. I'm
Were you
33.
a little Sharpton?
And I've decided that from now on, all of the T-shirts I buy have to be branded something that I believe in.
I totally agree with that.
So like I have the Abolitionist Rising shirt that is an anti-abortion shirt. I want everything to either be church merch from Calvary 316 or be
Outlaw
something-
Radio.
Outlaw Radio, Get Fed Today. If I'm wearing a T-shirt, I think that I want it to be. I have it's a shirt that you made years ago. The noon. The persecuted church shirt. Like I want any T-shirt I wear.
Yeah, just as a hat, right
he has
there.
the
Yeah.
hat, the same. Yeah, I want it to be branded something that I believe in, something that I can. If somebody says, "Hey, what is that?" I can, in some way, share the gospel with them from the thing I'm wearing.
It
Does
happens,
make
agree with
sense
that,
to
yeah.
you
It happens
guys?
a lot just with this symbol.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, oh, is that the symbol for infidel? I'm like, oh no, it's
Or you're
way,
like, is that a fishing hat?
right.
Is that a lure?
I'm like, oh no, it's way worse than that.
Right.
It's what ISIS would spray paint on Christians' homes before they murdered them.
truth. That's the origins of the noon.
Right.
Yes, that's where the symbol comes from.
Right, and they're like, oh, okay.
And then you're like, would you like to buy a gun now?
But I really do want to go through my wardrobe and all of my T-shirts. I want to be able to say, this is what I would talk about if somebody asked me about this shirt.
So years ago, my dad had this thing where he was like, I'm not wearing any shirt. Like, Nike's not paying me to advertise for them, so why am I wearing a Nike logoed shirt? And it's like, oh, come on, man. That's it. But you know, the older I get, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like,
Why in the world am I advertising for anybody other than Jesus?
What I'm hearing
I don't
right now
care
is we
about
need to start a
Nikes.
merch store.
that might be true.
That might not be a bad idea.
The only thing outside of ministry that we probably merch for,
Masters.
yeah, which is also
Yeah, behind us.
in the Atlanta Braves. Dark Waters Fly Shop in the UP.
The Atlanta Black Crackers.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore, but yes, that's true.
That hot sauce from down in Cape Sandblast.
Yeah,
I would,
yeah,
I'd
yeah.
rock this t-shirt.
There's a part
Things
of me.
we agree with.
It is one of the things that I plan on doing this year is purging my T-shirt collection of anything that is not something where I can be like, this is why I'm wearing that. This is what it means, and explain it if somebody asks.
So that'll be very funny. A little teaser for next week. I'm gonna wear a different T-shirt. That's gonna be funny.
the mermaid T-shirt.
No, let's just say it's about a movie
Speaking of that,
that I recently visited the location.
Oh, I know what shirt you're talking about.
I do. I have a T-shirt.
and I never thought it would happen, but he sent me a video of it. We
Yeah.
should post that.
That might happen next week. I bought Jessica a T-shirt that I found at Kroger.
Okay.
And I thought it would be funny, and she's like, "You can wear that."
I think I have a t-shirt of that. I need to see if I can actually
Look it up.
You know
I-
what? You know what?
yeah.
That
See if you
T-shirt.
can fit it.
That T-shirt
Yeah.
would absolutely fit into what I'm talking about now. Because like that's a childhood memory. It's a whole deal.
I'm
It
with
would
you,
fit.
Reverend Al.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
No,
So so tonight's episode.
we're
and
20 minutes in. Let's get
I
the
know.
episode
Let's
started.
gosh,
This is our show.
this is the delay in all this is Randy's fault. Like we're just
Right,
gonna
Randy.
double down on Randy.
We need to get Nan to whip him into shape.
Yes. Which by the way, she's gonna start volunteering in the nursery, and she can be known as Nana.
Solid.
So, which is solid. Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about with the war that's happening, whatever we want to call it, with America, Israel, Iran, whatever that ends up being looks like.
It's an Iranian military delete kit.
Yes, it's which it's funny. I cracked a joke to a friend of mine. So there's a good friend of our show that her company, just out of the blue, like she's been able to work from home for 5 years, and they've now decided like, you need to come back to the office 3 times a week. And in the course of the last 5 years, our friend has moved an hour and a half away from the office and has had a baby. And it's like, wait a second.
And
like,
she's been to the office like 10 times in the last 5 years.
Like what in the world's going on? So I cracked the joke yesterday. I said, do you know who else decided to eliminate their work from home policy? Didn't work out well for them either. Iran. Like they decided, the Ayatollah was like, y'all need to come to my house, no more Zoom meetings, and we're going to meet from my house. And that didn't work out well for them. So just letting you know, businesses, consider it. So tonight's episode is, we're like, there's a lot of like this conversation out there about the end times, the rapture. I have stumbled into this crazy thing, and this kind of ties into the X, Y, and Z post, which I will circle all the way back around to.
Yeah, that's just how we got into
this is how we got to where we are now. Is like, man, Creighton, you have found that you tweet out a few things and you get sucked into Mormonism and Roman Catholics.
I love arguing. I've been lax last couple of weeks because I've been
I have
busy.
gotten sucked into this. This has been fun.
It's so much fun getting into, and it also, I find it edifying to myself because I find myself having to be like, I know there's a passage that refutes that. I have to go look it up. And like, I'm in Isaiah way more than I was 2 months
ironically,
ago.
Gronk just wants to support what I have to say anyway. So it's like the AI makes it, when you're standing for the truth, it just makes it simple. So like, I have gotten into this weird whatever.
Oh, it'll take over
like
your
the
feed
algorithm.
easy.
Like I've had to start like muting people just to try to get out of the algorithm. But like the Reformed Amillennials group, literally has dominated my feed. Like down to like, of course, the Olivet Discourse was fulfilled in 70 AD, and that was the abomination of desolation, and the Jews are no longer a thing. And but then you argue back, and you're like, I posted, and I thought this was very interesting. Like, if you believe that the covenantal God broke his covenant with Israel, how do you have any assurance that that same God won't break his covenant with you?
It's a very good question.
And I've got no answer for that. And like, I just get blocked from this algorithm. But it just has reinforced this, I think, cultural thing that's happening where people are like really reconsidering like the end times. Like, what does the Bible really say? Is the rapture, the second coming of Jesus, tribulation? Where do the Jews fit into this? How about the Christians? How do we work through all of this? So it's like, it seems to be something that is very much at the forefront of people's mind, and maybe not so much the forefront of people's mind, but it just seems to be the forefront of my algorithm, which is why tonight I wanted to just expound on this idea. And I wanted to talk about a particular passage, and it's in the Olivet Discourse. So Jesus, this is in the Passion Week. He's leaving Jerusalem. He's going back to where he's staying in Bethany. And he stops on the Mount of Olives. He's overlooking the temple, Jerusalem. And he makes this interesting statement. Now, and let me read it for you because it sets the stage for tonight. But he says, but of that day... This is Matthew chapter 24, beginning with verse 36. He says, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So like Jesus is saying, of this day, the angels don't know when it's going to happen. I don't even know when it's going to happen. That's crazy. Jesus, Almighty God, doesn't know when this day will happen, but only the Father in heaven. Which is interesting because if it's the second coming of Christ, well, Jesus would know the day and the hour. The angels will know. We would know. Why? Because there's so many prophetic utterances that gives us a specific time frame. Most notably, Daniel his 70 weeks prophecy, Daniel 9, that, and again, to substantiate the prophecy, Daniel says 483 years from the command to rebuild the temple, Messiah the Prince will arrive. And 483 years from when Xerxes made that decree, April, I think it's 632 AD, Jesus comes into the temple. They declare Hosanna, Hosanna. It's Palm Sunday. To the point that the Pharisees are like, hey, you need to tell your followers to be quiet. And Jesus says, no, because the rocks would cry out. And if you had known the day in which Daniel spoke of, Jesus specifically mentions Daniel, then you would have known what's happening. Which tells us that according to Daniel's prophecy related to Jesus' affirmation, 483 years, 69 sevens, Jesus appears. Now, we're told that Messiah the Prince would be cut off. There would be a lull. Then there would be a final 7-year period in which God would fulfill his prophetic utterances regarding Israel. So Jesus says of that day, obviously not his second coming, but something else. I believe it to be the rapture of the church, not when Jesus comes to earth, but when the church gets called to Jesus. He says no one knows, not even himself. But then he makes this statement. He says, verse 37, but as the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark and did not know until the flood came and took them all away, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. And then he says, giving an example of what this will look like, again, different than the second coming. He says, 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, the other will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. And I think this is all a reference to the rapture of the church. Jesus making a reference to this particular event. But it gives us an interesting detail that I think demands our contemplation. So what will the condition of global events, geopolitical occurrences, like what will the environment look like on earth leading up to not necessarily the second coming of Jesus, which I think will happen at the end of a tribulational period, and there'll be no question about it. That period will begin, according to Daniel's 70th week, at the signing of a false covenant with the Antichrist in Israel, 7 years. At the 3.5-year mark, there'll be what's known as the abomination of desolation, where the Antichrist enters an actual temple, declares himself to be God, will culminate at the end of that 7 years with the second coming of Jesus, all prophetically mentioned. But this event, referenced in the Olivet Discourse, Jesus doesn't even know when it will happen. It'll happen before these things take place. It's described as a thief in the night, unexpected, but we are given some parameters, some indications of the environment, and it's fascinating to me that the parameters are directly attributed back to as in the days of Noah. That blows my mind, because Jesus here is pointing back to Genesis chapter 6. He's like, as the conditions were with Noah that led to a global flood, the destruction of humanity, the preservation of a remnant, like that, those conditions are the only like characteristic that Jesus gives for us to like read the tea leaves about like the environment that we're really approaching the end. So like when we're trying to navigate, we got America, Israel, Iran, we got Russia and Ukraine, we've got China and the things in the Asia Pacific. Like we've got all these different things happening. Like, are we near the end? What's the deal? We have all these conversations. It's like, I think this warrants a conversation because Jesus gives us an indication, as it was in the days of Noah, Like, that's your characteristic, which leads us to the big question. Well, what does that mean? Like, what was the days of Noah? What were those characteristics, those parameters? Because if we see ourselves in a time frame like the days of Noah, then that's a better indication versus geopolitical events that are happening in our time. Does that make sense? Like where we're kind of going with the episode?
Absolutely.
Now, before we get into that, I want to take a moment. We were trying to do this last week. It got pushed for time. But we are going to do a Spice Daddy dig. So Spice Daddy, Justin Holcomb, has a degree in archaeology. He's well versed in these things. He stays connected to them. And so we're going to get a bit of an archaeological update. We call it Spice Daddy Digs. Hand it over. Spice Daddy.
What's up, my little pepper poppers? It's a little hard to do when I'm not drinking hot sauce.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people expect me to just update on what's happening in the land of the Bible. But this week I thought I'd take a different direction. And because if you really think about it, the land of the Bible kind of encompasses almost the entire world. So we're going to talk about some things that I guess you could track it from the fall of the Tower of Babel and the dispersion of the people groups and the languages. I spent a good number of years in China, and so I've been exposed to the Chinese language. I'm not an expert by any means, but I found this really interesting. And I'd like to share it with you. If you haven't seen it before, it's kind of made its rounds on social media a little bit. But there's a thing in anthropology tracking languages and in linguistics where there's roughly between 100 and 130 language families. And what's really cool is the written languages, which are pretty, I want to say, rare up to a certain point. And so for very old written languages, it's really, really rare. And what we find with certain languages is they are broken up into two or three different categories. One of those being hieroglyphics, which we see with Egyptians, which each individual picture creates a word. So it's unlike our language, which would be called phonetic, which is based on the Phoenician letters.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like our language for context.
Right. So each symbol is a symbol of a sound that we make, and we put those together to create our language.
It's like hooked on phonics works for me.
Correct. But there are certain languages like ancient Egyptian and the Chinese language and many of the other Chinese languages or Asian languages.
Japanese
not all of them, but they use the Chinese characters that are actually hieroglyphic in nature, and each symbol has a meaning, and you can stack those on one on top of the other. So if we go back in time a little bit before the modern what we call simple Mandarin or traditional Chinese characters, or I forgot the exact name, something like simple characters.
Simplified Chinese.
Simplified Chinese, which is what the Chinese Communist Party did. Generally, that's associated with Mandarin in the mainland. But each one of the characters that you see is a full word, and each of those is a combination of different characters to
So do we have an example?
Yeah, I picked out a couple of them. I didn't want to get fully into it, and you can find these on YouTube and stuff like that. So the original ones were found is from some characters, ancient Chinese characters found on bone, and it's really cool. So if we kind of pull up some of those bone characters, which have morphed into Chinese ones. The word for boat, very interesting. So the word for boat is a combination of three different characters. You got the first one, vessel. The next one is the word for the number 8. And then the word for people.
So instead of phonetically, it's illustrative in some
correct.
Some regard.
So the word boat in what we would say traditional Chinese is a combination of 3 different characters: vessel, 8, and people. So that should sound very familiar to you.
So if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see the image that was just put on the screen. So we would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Outlaw Radio. .live. You can watch this. You can see the actual image, or you can just search it for yourself. Again, acknowledging that not everybody can see, but like the image that was put up shows the 3 different characters that make up boat, and how they individually represent 3 different things.
3 different things combined into one, and that then again, show it again, combines into a whole word meaning boat.
Vessel, 8 people.
Yeah. Does that sound familiar to you?
That is very interesting. So vessel, 8 people in Chinese, what would you call it? Language.
Yeah.
Indicates boat. But why in the world would they? I mean, you can understand vessel,
Right.
and people in a vessel.
Right.
That also makes sense.
Why 8?
But why 8? Because it's very specific.
Right.
8 people in a vessel equals boat in Chinese language.
Right. And so while I was there, I've done some lectures and stuff. I love so.
Did you know we were going to talk about Noah tonight?
No, I didn't.
So how?
No, I didn't.
In fact,
Yeah.
It was going to be last
planned
week.
this last week.
I did plan this last week.
I've had these pictures in my.
I had no
computer
idea this was
from
the
last
what?
week.
God
production.
wills it.
God, Deus Volt.
The production schedule.
Right. So
This was not coordinated. Thank you, Randy.
Right. So so I taught English, right? And part of that was teaching English not out of school, was teaching some
But
other
you
people.
taught English where?
Different places. I don't want to give that away.
What
I
continent?
use
What?
Asia, China. I use
okay,
60.
yeah.
I basically use 66 different books, ancient books, to teach English some of the time. But what I told some of the group of people, I'm like, if my forefathers had the information built into our language that you had, I think we would be in a different spot now. When you look at where they are now and where they were, like I don't see how you can read something and not see this as a Christian, right? Where you already mentioned it, right? Noah.
So let's put that graphic back up. So boat in Mandarin
Or Chinese in
or
general.
Chinese
yeah.
in general is vessel 8 people.
Uh-huh.
In the Bible in Genesis 6, like we have Noah's Ark was a vessel that preserved people, but specifically
8 people.
8 people.
Like-
so just like spoiler alert, right?
This is just a few of them, and for me, part of the reason why I love anthropology is because I've always loved the tracking of the people groups from the Tower of Babel, and how did those disperse. And what's cool about the Hebrew language is you can track people groups, because even the sons of Noah, you can track where your ancestry is from the genealogy. So these genealogies that are in the Bible are super, super cool when you understand them from the context. When you're reading this long list of names, it's super boring. But then when you start looking through them through the context of these names mean something, and you can start tracking that, it tells a whole story of people within the context of God's plan.
So have you seen the thing, and this is related, obviously, where they've done, and this is secular people, scientists, that have like tracked that all of the blood types basically can come from 8 different people?
Yeah. Like
It's an amazing, like, wait a second. Wait, what? Like all the variations come from specifically 8 people?
I mean, all the variations. There are 8 variations of blood types, with a few outliers. That might be a ifs at some point.
Yes,
because
okay,
I think
cool.
it's very interesting.
And this is where I love even though I don't have a job in it right now, but like my chosen field of study, I run into people so often, Christians and non-Christians, that are like, oh, they one of my favorite movies, Nacho Libre. He walks up to he sneaks up behind the other guy and he baptizes him secretly. He's like, I don't believe in religion, I believe in science, right? And I'm like, why can't we have both? And when you start studying the Bible and you start studying these ancient people groups and their languages and their cultures, it matches up with what the Bible says. This next one, I got two examples here.
Yeah.
This is going to blow your mind.
I can't wait.
Even more so than boat. So the word for righteousness is a combination of the words sheep and me, which me is a combination of hand and knife.
Is it really?
Yep. And so what you see here in the word righteousness is a sheep with a hand and a knife over it.
All right, I want to jump in and just make it a subtle observation that when we're talking about China and the development of the language, like we're not speaking to a Judeo-Christian
Correct.
background.
One of my favorite.
This is a whole another thing.
This goes further. So there are a few different things. So like I got 6 months paid vacation or 6 weeks paid vacation every Chinese New Year, right? So I'd use that time to travel, and everywhere I went in Asia, like a specific example, I went to Laos, right? Random communist country. Went to go visit some garden, like a botanical garden, and they had little signs, and they went through the creation story they had, and I was like, oh, this sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of different places. You see these constant similarities between different stories. But even further so, within even Beijing, there's a place called the Temple of Heaven. And you start looking through the history of it and what they were doing there. They were making sacrifices to this god named Shangdi, the ruler of heaven, and things like that. And I'm just like, how did you miss this? And it was so obvious for me, who serves the God of heaven, to look at that and be like, how do you miss this obvious thing?
Can I make I don't quite know how this works out theologically, but I do know that Jesus at some point says that he has sheep that we do not know. I think that at least some of those sheep are in some way related to the fact that there are these kind of imperatives around the globe. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, Jesus has sheep that we don't know, but he has revealed himself, like the Bible tells us that God reveals himself to all men in some way or another.
Right.
Like, there are definitely people who, like we say, how did you see this and not know? I think that there are definitely people who saw it and understood.
But
Does that make sense to you guys?
Well, that goes back to
Am I on a wild ledge or anything?
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Yes.
That goes back. Show that righteousness again. What does that mean to you? A sheep, or a hand and knife over a sheep.
It's the gospel story.
Sacrificial atonement.
Right. And that is
That
so
equals
amazing.
righteousness.
And these aren't the only
Right.
two ones. You start looking through some of these ancient things, and you're just like, holy crap. And then I look back on my heritage and my people, and I start thinking about these thousands of years of Germanic and English and Anglo-Saxon people, and I'm like, if we had this, would we have been the same pagan culture that we had before? And I don't know. How do you look at this? And
Jesus says, when he's talking to the Pharisees, he says, if the signs that I showed you today were shown in Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have turned.
Right.
Like, I don't know exactly where
the Queen of Sheba had as much revelation.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
So that goes back to, like, to me, it was when I first learned about this while I was in China, I was just like, this is awesome. And then again, I started thinking back on my heritage because I've just done my 23andMe and found out how white I actually was.
Which we already knew.
I already knew, but I thought I'd find something interesting in there or different. But it was still, but like all these people groups, and you can see how little it takes for a culture that has all the information to go to where they are now and stay that way. And it all the way to the Jewish people who had the Messiah, the God in flesh living among them, and they crucified him. And how fickle we are as humans to look on that and just throw it all away.
So as an unmarried 30-something with no kids, I would like to just say that that is also true for parents out there with their kids. Like, you can show them all of the things. And the Bible tells us that train a child in the way that he should go, and he will stay that. I can't think of the actual, but he will stay in that. That is absolutely true. But at the same time, kids go wild when they get out of their parents' house all the time. But as soon as they leave that, and they have all of the history behind them, keep an eye on your kids. Do your best.
But the main reason why I brought this up today is because I think so often we teach the Bible as just stories. And we read through the Bible, and I can sit here all day long and see I've lived and I've seen these actual places that are listed in the Bible. But you and who may or may not be Jewish, like, the Bible is true. Science proves that. History proves that. Your ancient ancestors prove that, whether they knew it or not.
That's so cool.
And extra biblical evidence supporting the Bible helps you to know that what you read in God's word is true and can track.
That's fantastic. Let's pivot back to the story of Noah and how this relates to our day and age. Let me give it a little context. The most famous passage dealing with Noah we find in Genesis chapter 6. We read, "Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth. He was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them." And then, like one of the greatest verses of grace, verse 8, Genesis 6, "But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." And then verses 9, 10, 11, 12, we have a little bit of the genealogy of Noah. And then beginning with verse 13 of Genesis 6, we have the instructions to create the ark, the story of Noah, the flood then gets recorded for us. The 40 days, 40 nights of rain, the destruction of the earth, the preservation of Noah, the animals, God bringing them 2 by 2 to the ark gets recorded in chapter 7. We have chapters 8, 9, the story of the flood, what takes place during the flood, the receding of the waters. We have the ark finding itself back onto dry land, Mount Ararat. That whole process, Noah Again, his wife, his 3 sons, their wives being preserved. That's where we get the 8 people. Them exiting the ark to a totally different world, making offerings and sacrifices to God. God providing what's known as the Noahic covenant, sealed by the sign of the rainbow. The rainbow is physical manifestation of water vapor and light, is a indication created by God to be a sign of a covenant that God would never destroy the earth again with a global flood. Not to say that God won't destroy the earth again, it just won't be with a global flood, the Noahic covenant. God's still working his plan of redemption, now going from Adam, Seth, now going through Noah, his family members. Again, all of this, Genesis 6, 7, 8, 9, even into chapter 10, we get this story. Noah's an interesting character. Before we get to the environment, because again, the context of our discussion tonight is Jesus is as in the days of Noah, would give us an indication as of the environment of the rapture of the church. So what do we learn from that? Now, before we get to the environment, let's just talk a little bit about what we know of Noah. Noah's not a perfect character, but he is an anointed character. Preserved by God, he's declared that he found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Of all of the planet, Noah is the one that God comes to and preserves humanity. The genealogical lineage of the human genome, going from Adam, being diluted through this unholy corruption of the sons of God coming into the daughters of men, which I absolutely believe to be an angelic demonic perversion, knowing that the ultimate demise of Satan would come through a virgin birth, would come through a human being, Satan aiming to destroy the human genome. That's a whole convoluted conversation, I know, maybe for another day, but setting context, like crazy things going on. Noah's righteous, he's pure, him and his sons, their wives get preserved. God starts over. The rainbow, there's a covenant. God's going to still work his plan of redemption through Noah and his family. They're given 2 different commissions. One, to eat meat. I think that is probably related to the ecological changes that have happened on planet Earth. Needing meat versus just vegetation, probably to deal with UV radiation, which changed from the pre-flood to post-flood world. But also told to multiply, fill the earth, but to spread out. Now, that leads to the Tower of Babel, other things, coming down to the family of Abraham. Now, we're given Noah's genealogy. Noah is included in the genealogical record of Jesus. We find this within Jewish heritage. 1 Chronicles, chapter 1, verse 4. Has Noah part of the lineage that leads us to David, the Davidic covenant. So we have Adam, we have Seth, we have Noah, we have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, and then we get to David. Again, 1 Chronicles 1:4. Speaking specifically of the lineage of Jesus himself, Noah is included in that genealogical record. Luke chapter 3, verse 36 gives us context for that. We're first told that Noah found grace. And grace is unmerited favor. That tells us right from the beginning in the introduction of Noah that God favored Noah. Not because of Noah, but because God chose him. Grace. An amazing thing. But we're also told in Ezekiel 14, verses 14 through 20, that Noah was a man of righteousness, which is, again, an amazing thing when you look at the totality of Noah's story, because there were some failings that occurred later in his life. He was not, again, a perfect man. He was a man that found grace, but he was a man that God determined to be righteous because of his faith. Hebrews 11, verse 7, we're told that Noah was a man of faith. Again, God comes to Noah and says it's going to rain. Now, why is that a big thing? It had never rained before. We're told prior to the flood that the earth was watered from a dew that came from above and below. Rain was not a thing. Probably Pangea, one global continent. The canopy theory, canopy of water vapor. Again, the flood happened from waters coming from beneath and from above. Again, a lot of science, a lot of stuff behind this. But when God came to Noah and said, hey, I'm going to preserve you. You need to build this boat because I'm going to flood the earth. He had never seen anything like this. So he believed the revelation of God, the word of God. He heard the word of God and believed it. How? Not by sight, but by faith. He trusted that what God was saying was true and would come to pass. Now, it was 120 years that it took Noah to build the ark. God comes to Noah, reveals himself, relays his word. It's 120 years before any of this actually manifests. Like, that's an enormous amount of time. 120. Most of us will die 40 years before that. 120 years. That's an incredible amount of time. And yet Noah believed it. Imagine being in 1910 and getting a promise. And it's not till 2020, right? It's an enormous amount of time.
And watching the world turn around you.
And evolve and grow. And then the other thing that's interesting is that according to 2 Peter 2:5, we're told that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. That in addition to God revealing, receiving God's grace, receiving God's revelation, believing God's revelation by faith, acting on that belief, that's what faith is. Faith is acting on belief, and then building an ark, and everyone making fun of you, no one believing, but in the process of all of those 120 years, Noah's a preacher of righteousness. And how many converts did Noah have? His sons and their wives. That's it. His family, which I will give him credit for. His family saw his life, saw his faith, and they followed him. So Noah is a man of righteousness. He's a man of faith, and he's a preacher of what he believed. This Noahic covenant, it's confirmed, again, not just as it's articulated in Genesis 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but Isaiah 54:9. We have further examples of the Noahic covenant being established, confirmed by the prophets. Now, the question is, if we're trying to read through the tea leaves, if we're trying to make sense of the world around us, if Jesus tells us that is as in the days of Noah, that we should be ready for the rapture of the church and the domino effect of what we would call end times events, what do we know of the days of Noah? From the passage we just read in the book of Genesis, there's some things we can say with concrete certainty. Now, taking a step back from that, there's a lot of evidence, and Justin, you might be able to speak to some of this from an archaeological standpoint, that the world pre-flood was much different than we might at first think. So we're given a genealogical record. Again, not to go into all of it, but please realize that there is a strong likelihood that the global population of Noah's world was almost similar, or if not identical, to our own. Massive population growth, expanse. With that in mind, taking into account that we're discussing descendants directly from Adam, who had pure genetics. We're talking about incredible intelligence, acumen, very different than what Darwinism might speculate of Neanderthals or like the early advent of humanity. Noah, those that came before him were high intelligence, high acumen, brilliant. Again, like if you just want to take building a boat that will float with no preconceived notions of like how things are buoyant, it's an astounding feat in of itself. Like the technology that would go into building such a boat with the parameters, the dimensions that God gives specifically to Noah. You know, Vinny, you're a woodworker, you know, and we're told that Noah built this boat out of wood. I've been to the Ark, the replica that's in Kentucky, Ken Ham Creation Institute. It is the largest timber frame structure on the planet. It was built by the Amish. There are no screws. It's all wood built plugs. I mean, from your background, because you spent years doing timber frame homes, like going back to like what it would take to build such a vessel, the magnitude to be able to house that amount of animals, the food that it would take to house, the ventilation shafts. Like, speak to that for a second, just from a woodworking standpoint.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I mean, especially because I don't know what the tooling was that they had available to them. The tooling that they had available to them back then, like, I have no clue what that even looks like.
Which means that like it had to have been advanced mechanics. I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can turn a round tree into a square beam, and I can break it down into boards and turn those boards into trim or tabletops or whatever, but I have a lot of tools that I use to do that, and it's not easy even with that.
But if it was you and maybe like 3 other people doing it with you, like it would take 120 years.
A lifetime. Yeah, literally. Yeah, I can't even imagine. We did one timber frame project where the guy didn't want any modern tools used on it, and so we went like, 1800s level tools like broad axes and, cross-cut saws and hand drills, and that sucked. But I can't even imagine that was one house, like one little house that could have fit inside of the Ark 10 times. So it's mind-boggling to even think about it. Like, I've read the story of the Ark since I was a child, and it doesn't make any more sense now than it did then.
So it tells us though that like the world, again, Jesus says, as in the days of Noah. There's so much about those days we don't know. But we can, with accuracy, speculate that there was incredible technology. Justin, I want you to jump in here real quick, because and again, it's hard to say with certainty, but again, using the pyramids as an example, there seems to be a lot of things that are unexplainable and that maybe predate a global flood.
Yeah, it was aliens and rock monsters.
Right. That's what the world wants to say, right?
So, from an evolutionary standpoint, basically everything goes from complication to getting more
Simple to complicated.
and smarter and smarter. And that's not what we see with human culture. We see most oftentimes simplicity moving towards complicated. But I think with pre-flood,
I'm going to jump in. We see examples of simplicity moving to complicated in
now,
like what we see.
But but
there's evidence that we at some point went from very complicated to simplicity.
So basically the way our knowledge works, it builds upon previous generations, and plus or minus, I don't know, 80 years per generation. But when you have people living 500 years, let's just for simplicity say 500 years as a generation pre-flood, Like, you have that knowledge of a 500-year-old being able to pass that down, and
Living memory gets much longer.
right. And so you have Methuselah living for 963 years. You have Noah living for, what was it, 800 and 900?
996?
No, I think it was longer. I think it was closer to 900. Yeah, so it's one of those things where basically your great grandfather would still be alive, being able to pass to you,
And lucid.
yes, and pass to you the knowledge of how to do things. On top of that, if you get into things like the Book of Enoch and stuff, these angels, fallen angels, may have passed on some knowledge to people, like metalworking and stuff like
Certain
that.
technological advances.
Right.
I am
And
vaguely convinced that the idea that the Nephilim are one of the precursors to the story of the Roman god who brought fire to humans. What is his name? I was hoping. you'd help me here, Justin.
yeah, Roman mythology is not my forte, but like so there's a really interesting thing is you find these.
Prometheus.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
Yes, I
So-
was thinking that Prometheus. Oh yeah.
So, but like what you see within theory, of course, because there was nobody here that can say this is this, because there was not really any written things back then. But these ancient gods may have been the mighty men of old, and it's one of those things of, oh, my grandpa can beat up your grandpa. He did these things, and it just morphed into this ancestor worship, which then morphed into a supernatural being, and those became
So you
ancient
you
gods.
touch on some things that are interesting, and so I want to build on that. So like with the pyramids, the math and the math, the technology that went into the creation of the pyramids is unrivaled. Like, we don't necessarily even have the technology to do that today. You get into the astrological aspects of how it relates to the moving of the stars. Also, very trippy stuff.
Well, I think when you have no artificial light, you can see the stars more clearly. And if there's an atmospheric change immediately after the flood, within 100 years, you're seeing things that may the atmosphere may have been different and more conducive to being able to track those things with the naked eye.
So, as in the days of Noah, I think we could say advanced. I think from our conversation that there was an absolute.
We're not talking about advanced like flying cars, because I think that's what most people envision, flying vehicles and things and laser beams and stuff like that.
Envision the movie Atlantis, where
Yes.
they go down to see the underwater city.
Right.
And they've got the flying. They're basically ghosts from Halo.
That was not it. But I think we still to this day find things. And for instance, in ancient Iraq, Babylon, we find what we think was a battery, ancient battery. So, and we theorized,
Mythbusters did a video.
yeah, we theorized that was used for like gold plating and plating metal on certain objects. So like these people were smart, and I think that's the fall point for most modern day evolutionary anthropologists and most of modern day societies, that we're thinking the ancient people more like caveman than, hey, my great grandpa was really smart, and at some point that knowledge just got lost because he didn't teach me, or I was too dumb to learn it.
It's kind of the exact opposite of the issue that we're faced with now, which is where we think that older generations, like the boomers and Gen X, are smarter than
Yeah, that's just not true at all.
millennials.
That's not true
and-
at all.
No, of course it's not.
They can't even
But
use TikTok.
It goes farther than that. That like the people around the turn of like the 80 BC, like people in the first century, were not stupid. Like, we just figured out Roman concrete
Yeah.
like 5 years ago, if that.
How to do it underwater. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Roman concrete has been a mystery for literally 2,000 years.
I think what helps...
And it's been the best concrete for 2,000 years. We just figured out how to make it recently.
I think the best way to think about it is the same way that my generation and below uses Google and AI, and the way that the older generation still don't have a full grasp on how to use the internet to gain that knowledge. Because I see it every day. Some of you be like, "Oh, I need you to help me with this. I don't know how to do it. Let me Google it real quick, or watch a YouTube video and I can figure it out."
So let me
same way with
bring this
those
back.
older generations.
Let me bring this back to our topic. So, again, as in the days of Noah, incredibly brilliant in a way that we're not quite sure what that really looks like. Unified. It's interesting that you look back and we have no references of war. That pre-flood world seems to be unified into a global economy, a global government, global purpose. We see this very interesting dynamic of humanity in what we would call extraterrestrial. That being, from what we're told, the fallen angels. Like it's a very weird, complicated world. It is immoral. It is sexually deviant. It is perverse and is anti-God. This one of the saddest admissions in Scripture. God was grieved that He had even made man because of their rebellion, because of their godlessness. And again, as in the days of Noah, so will it be with. So, like, if you're waiting, and this is one of the reasons that I have such a problem with amillennialism or even postmillennialism, is that you're expecting the world to get better. If you even interpret what Jesus says as it being to the second coming of Christ, like you have a problem, because the world isn't getting better. It's not getting more moral. It's getting more and more wicked, which then totally flies in the face of your eschatology, because Jesus would say it's going to be like the days of Noah. And the days of Noah means that, like, it was Noah who found grace and his family.
It was so bad in the days of Noah that God killed everybody.
Right.
Not like some people.
So
everybody.
So we're not like, and again, this is like, we want to look at what Jesus is the one that says this is the environment that we need to be looking for. So, like, and again, if you're, oh man, my church isn't growing, but like the lukewarm church is, that might be a good indication we're moving in the right direction. Like the faithful church getting big and big and big, like that's not the environment. Like this is like we got to be real of what the world's going to look. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, more immoral, more deviant, more sexually perverse, more godless, more demonic, like in crazy ways. Like that's the environment. And you got Noah, who has God's word, that there's a judgment coming. He believes it. He acts on it. And he's building a boat. And he's preaching to a world that doesn't listen to him, doesn't believe him. That's the environment that we're talking about. Which is something I think, like, as we're looking at today, we need to keep in mind of is that really the environment? Okay, we got war with Iran. Okay, whatever. Is that Ezekiel 38 and 39? I don't really see.
There will be wars and rumors of wars.
I don't really see that. There's a huge remnant. Again, the challenge here is to take Jesus's words, what he says the environment will look like, and to ask ourselves, is that the environment we're in? We look around, is this as in the days of Noah? No. Are we moving that direction? Sure, I could say that. Are there things that can happen rapidly to move us even quicker? Absolutely. Could it happen soon? No doubt. But that's the point. Now, there's another component to this, because the story of Noah doesn't actually begin with Noah. The flood doesn't begin with Noah. Like, there's actually, like, you have to go back a chapter This whole story doesn't start in Genesis 6. It actually goes back to the genealogy of Genesis 5, which also gives us really interesting insight into as in the days of Noah. Now, before we get to that, I want to segue here to a quick segment. We call it Dear Daddy. We don't have a lot of time. This manifested from a conversation we had earlier today. God speaks in all kinds of ways, Dear Daddy. Sometimes it's a still small voice. Sometimes it's very overt. Sometimes it can be through Instagram. In what ways have you found that God speaks to you in interesting ways? And should we be open to hearing in different ways?
I mean,
Dear Daddy.
usually it is in a still small way, and it's just having the mental fortitude to realize that it's God and listen and do what he's asking you to do, or talk to that person that he's put on your mind. It could be just that simple, just a name that comes up in your mind. And I don't use Instagram at all. Like, I'm a Facebooker, and the only thing I look at Instagram for is to check the 4,000 recipes that my wife and daughter send me that they want me to cook for dinner. But I had an issue with an individual that was a uncomfortable situation, and I knew that if I didn't give this person forgiveness, I was going to live in bitterness for a long, probably the rest of my life. And so I confronted the person and let them know that I understood what they had done wrong, and I forgave them for it. And then I sat there and kind of internally battled myself about fixing the relationship and, becoming friends again, even though this wrong thing was done. And I get an Instagram notification one day. It's my wife sending me recipes, and I check all 472 of them. And then when I finished, I just kind of clicked on the home button, and it was a guy that I'd never seen on Instagram before. I'd never followed him. I don't even know how he ended up in my feed or my algorithm or whatever, because I don't use it. And he was literally saying, the message was, you can forgive somebody and then remove them from your life. And it was exactly what I needed to hear that day, at that time, at that moment in my life. And so now, anytime I'm struggling with something, I pray about it, obviously, whether it's a work thing, usually the stupidest of things, but like a hang up at work or interaction with an individual, I just don't know how to deal with them or deal with them in a way that would be pleasing to God, that doesn't annoy them. And I'll just open Instagram, and usually I can scroll about 2 or 3 posts down, and boom, there's some Instagram post that is exactly the answer I need on that day at that time to overcome that thing that I just prayed about. So, while some people are using social media to look up girls or whatever, it very much can be a place that God can speak
Or
to
like
you.
Putting techniques or chipping or driving,
I really need to focus on that.
But isn't it cool how like God speaks in weird ways, right?
Yeah, 100%. And just listen.
Yeah, and be open to that.
Yep.
There was a quick question that was asked on one of the feeds. Spice, you want to bring that
on
up?
YouTube. This is an important reminder that you might be listening tomorrow or later on to the podcast, but join us live on Wednesday nights starting at 8, either on YouTube, Facebook, or X, which currently we can't get on X right now for some reason. But one of the questions, are the mighty men described in Genesis the same type of mighty men described in 2 Samuel?
So the quick answer is no. The phrase mighty men is a broad application. We're told that in Genesis, these are mighty men of renown, and they're the manifestation of this union that occurs with the sons of God coming into the daughters of men. Now, there's theologically some debate into what exactly that is. You can research that on your own. I'm going to give you my own interpretation. I think the sons of God speaks to angelic beings. And keep in mind that God created everything. God created humanity on the 6th day. Man was different than the rest of creation. in the sense that God didn't speak man into existence. God formed man from the dust of the earth. God breathed life into man. And then we're told that man was created in the image and likeness of God and then given dominion over the rest of creation. Unrecorded in the creation narrative are the angelic host, angels. We're not specifically told when angels are created. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I think that's probably the reference to heavens and earth is probably when God created the angelic host. They're different than human beings. We're told that humanity will judge the angels, so at some point we'll be greater than the angels, but right now the angels are kind of above mankind. But like they were given one opportunity for not necessarily salvation, but a point of decision, of consequence. Lucifer, the archangel, rebelled against God, and he took with him a third of the angelic host. They became fallen angels. I think the sons of God is a reference to those fallen angels. Angelic beings, we're told in Hebrews, are able, like they're their own. They possess their own physical form. They're interdimensional. They're also able to take on the form of humanity. We're told in Hebrews, be careful entertaining strangers because they could be angels. There are examples all throughout the Old Testament of angels taking on the form of human beings. What I believe is being described in Genesis 6 is these fallen angelic beings taking on supernatural pseudo-human form and impregnating human women, creating this blending of half angel, half human, like a third category of being. I think that we actually, I believe that a lot of Greek mythology might actually be based in reality. Again, Greek mythology is often based like Zeus, the gods coming down, having relations with human women, creating demigods. And so when we read of these mighty men of renown, they are the byproduct of this union. Much different than the mighty men of valor we read about in the histories of Israel, specifically related to the men that followed David. These mighty men of valor were men that did brave things. They were human. There's no reference of these mighty men being anything other than purebred, biological human beings that did extraordinary brave things, earning themselves that title, men of valor. So great question. Appreciate it. I hope that provides some clarity. Now, I mentioned that the story of Noah. Creighton, did you want to jump in there?
I was going to give us a segue back into it, which is that I have for years said that we are probably going to lose the culture war. Like in America, we as Christians have always thought of, we need to win the culture war. We need to turn the country back to Christ. The world is going to get better. And I have for years said that for Revelation to happen, it seems as though things have to get worse.
Much worse.
Like, are we going to overturn abortion in America? I would very much like to see that we do.
And it could happen.
And
we don't know.
Totally could. But I am generally pessimistic. I am not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Apart from revival, things will not get better.
It will not get better. Things are going to get worse moving forward, which is interesting, which sucks. For a lot of us, it's going to suck, but it ends with Jesus coming back. You know what I mean?
Listen, apart from, and we can say this historically, like there's historical evidence,
Lots of it.
that apart from awakening and revival, moving of God and the Holy Spirit, like God interjecting himself in a radical way in human development, humanity moves from moral to immoral fast. We see that in the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel goes from its zenith under Solomon to its ruin in one generation. And that's the case, generally speaking, apart from the intervention of God. So I agree with you in that sense. Now, as in the days of Noah, there's another component to the days of Noah that needs to be acknowledged. And this is where things get kind of applicational to us as Christians. So in Genesis chapter 5, again, we have a long list of names. There's this genealogy. I want to read some of it. We read beginning with verse 18. That Jared lived 162 years and begot Enoch. After he begot Enoch, Jared lived 800 years, had sons and daughters. And this is the longevity of life, adding to the societal structure that Justin's mentioning. So all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. That's a long life. Verse 21, Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. After he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. After he begot Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, had sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. Lamech lived 182 years and had a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord has cursed." After he begot Noah, Lamech lived 595 years, had sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And then the chapter ends, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then we get to chapter 6. Now, as in the days of Noah. Again, the story of Noah, chapter 6, God being grieved that he had ever made man, the depravity of humanity causing that reaction, Noah finding grace, this plan to build an ark to preserve humanity, the flood, all of this. It goes back to Enoch. Like, it's not like that God like one day woke up and was like, "Oh my goodness, man stinks, I'm going to destroy him." It's not how it happened at all. We go back several hundred years where God sees the trajectory of man. Now, there's so much not written in the genealogy, but there's a lot of humanity. Like roughly, I think 1,000 years, if you work through 1,000 years of humanity, just unrecorded. One generation to the next, to the next, to the next. Many hundred years before the flood, before Noah even exists. You have this guy Enoch. Like, he's this weird character. Like, he comes out of nowhere, and like all we're told is that like he walked with God for 300 and some odd years. And then he was not, for God took him. And you're like,
excuse me?
Right? Like, what's the deal with that? Enoch, should be noted, is also included in the genealogy leading us from Adam to Abraham. We find his name mentioned in 1 Chronicles 1:3. He's also in the lineage of Jesus, Luke 3:37. But like, we don't really know much about Enoch until Hebrews 11:5. When we're told why he was taken by God. We're told that he didn't see death. He was taken because of his faith. And he's included in this hall of faith, this chapter about faith. Faith in what? Faith in a coming Savior. Like, it tells us like that Enoch had a relationship with God. Enoch walked with God, was loyal to God, faithful to God. And in the course of that, Like the idea is that he was like hanging out with God one day and God's like, you know what? Why don't you just come on up? And he doesn't die. Like, which is trippy in its own self. Like he is taken. The word taken. It's used in scripture. He just gets taken. Doesn't die. Gets taken to heaven. Why? Because of his faith. His faith in what? His faith in Jesus, a coming Savior. Again, confirmed by Hebrews 11. But then you get to Jude 1, verses 14 and 15. And we're given more information of Enoch. And we're told that Enoch was an end times prophet. Like that Enoch was actually a preacher in his day, declaring to the world that they needed to repent, to come back to God, or face a certain judgment. And you're like mind blown. Like, wait, excuse me? So you have this guy hundreds of years before the flood who has a relationship with God and is a prophet. And he's predicting, he's preaching, he's telling the world a judgment is coming.
The end is nigh.
My question is,
yes.
Enoch probably knew Adam. Why wasn't Adam doing that?
Well, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother topic. But Adam, the first man who walked and talked with God in the garden.
He definitely knew Seth.
Yes.
For sure. Who would have been a very old man. But again, you're now in a globe of like maybe 6 billion people. It's like things have like changed. Things have changed rapidly. And we can't, again, where the Bible doesn't provide us an explanation, we don't know. But what we do know of Enoch is like God was like, I'm not cool with what's happening with humanity. There are these big things happening. But did God not have representation? Was God not provide? No, God was providing a warning through Enoch. This is where it gets crazy. So Enoch is prophesying about a coming judgment. And he has a son. Now he had sons and daughters, but the only son we have mention of is this guy Methuselah. Now, Methuselah's name means when he dies, it shall be sent. Or it can also be translated, his death shall bring. Now, so Enoch is prophesying about a coming judgment. Now, he'll have Methuselah, Methuselah will have Lamech will have Noah. Like there's some genealogy still going on. But Enoch has made it clear this is coming. And then his son, he names his son that's like, when he dies, it's happening.
He's the countdown.
Like, dude, you're like it's the it's like the death clock,
the doomsday clock.
The doomsday clock. Like if Methuselah goes missing, his parents start freaking out,
and everyone else should too.
Yes, it's like, oh no, Methuselah got sick. What does that mean? Is it coming? Right? So he names his son. When he dies, it's going to come. Right? Now, the two things that are amazing is that what happens in the year that Methuselah dies? The flood. So 120 years before that, God comes to his grandson and says, hey, you're going to build this boat. It's coming. And like Methuselah's not on the ark. Why? Because it's not relevant to him at all, because like he's not going to be on it, because when he dies, it comes. Mm-hmm. But then he dies. And then the flood comes. Now, the thing that's also interesting is who's the oldest person to have ever lived? Methuselah. Which means that even in this process, when that guy dies, it's coming. That guy lives longer than any other human being that's ever lived before, which tells us what about God?
Gave him every chance he could.
Incredibly merciful.
Which is interesting because in 1 Peter 3:20, because Peter talks a lot about the flood, he calls it the divine long suffering waited in the days of Noah. Like Methuselah was probably ready to die like 100 years before that. He's like, God, take me. And God's like, I'm not ready.
As someone who, again, is very pessimistic, I think at least weekly, probably more like daily, like, all right, Lord, I'm ready for you to burn it all. Like, let's go. And
The divine
God does not feel the same way.
The divine long suffering.
I do.
The divine long suffering.
I am one of the people that should be judged. And I think, let's roll. And God, this whole time, is saying, no, we're going to give them more time. And that is wild.
So there's two closing applications before we tap out. One is if you think it's bad enough for God to judge, you're not God and you don't understand God. Because God's divine long suffering is much different than ours. Like, God was willing to wait to judge humanity to the point that he was grieved he had made man to begin with, and there were only one man in his family left. You might feel like things are going to hell in a handbasket. Not like as in the days of Noah. Secondly, Enoch, his mission was to tell the world judgment was coming. But before judgment came, God removed Enoch. And we're told in 1 Thessalonians that God does not judge the righteous with the wicked, and that God will remove the remnant, the church, his people, who are here to what? To say there's a judgment coming. Like, Enoch is a picture of us and what our job should be. If we believe that there's a judgment on the horizon, it's our obligation, our responsibility to let people know. Knowing that when the judgment comes, he will remove us. Again, as in the days of Noah, Enoch has been removed and God judges. I think it's a cool picture. Final thoughts?
I'm just glad that Outlaw Radio has more followers than Enoch.
You're going to have to deal with Enoch in heaven.
I mean, he couldn't even get one.
Hey,
Outlaw Radio post mill. Actually, Outlaw Radio Millennial Kingdom. We'll have Enoch on.
Yeah. I would be great.
Vinny will be off because we'll need the extra.
Think he'll drink hot sauce with me?
Sure.
As we said, like, things are going to get rough. I think that the world is getting worse. I say that. I think the world is getting worse, and I think that it's going to get real bad before the rapture comes.
Or
do not lose your faith in the Lord because the world gets worse. The world has been bad for Christians in the past. It will be bad for Christians in the future. That is promised to us.
Or I could make the argument that there could be one more revival and you would not think it's going to happen. And then it does. And that will make the world way worse.
Also a possibility.
Spice.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Sounds great.
The Bible's true. You can read it as a believer, and it can be confirmed outside the Bible through your ancestry, through the histories of the world and the peoples of the world. And so what you read is true. So Jesus is coming.
Amen.
People get ready. Jesus is coming soon.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
All right, hit some music. Hey, thanks so much for joining us tonight, for watching the Outlaw Radio Show. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you get a notification for that. That helps within the algorithm. If you are watching, check out the podcast. Podcast gets released, the audio, on Thursday on Apple and Spotify. If you're listening, again, hang out with us. Every Wednesday night, we go live at 8 p.m. God bless. We'll see you guys.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.